Bottom line numbers for the state is that 220,000 employees in the industry in North Carolina. That's about 6%, between 5 and 6% of the total. Over 16,000 businesses, 24 billion in wages and 83 billion in sales. And we can see how that relates to the state totals and know exactly where we are with the industry today. We looked at the subsectors. The biggest one is information technology with about 116,000 people working in there. Life sciences has 71,000, environmental sciences 20, and energy 11. You can see the change rates in employment. Some of these you'll say, well, wait a minute, why didn't you use this year, that year? We use the latest years available for every source. All the sources are core sources. They're BLS, they're National Science Foundation. We decided that being transparent and being replicable every year was more important than trying to find somebody who had estimated what we thought last year was. So every year we'll update this, may do some mid-updates during the course of the year. You can see the change overall. Environmental technology grew the fastest at 10% over the last 5 years. You can see where the other pieces fell in. All of this data, about 60 pages worth of it, is on the website live now. We also looked at it in terms of technology services versus technology manufacturing. Services grew at 12.5%. Manufacturing dropped a little over the last 5 years. That reflects a national trend in manufacturing, not surprising in the state. You can see the sales, and then the far side of this is location quotient. How do we measure against national averages? You can see we're over the national average in manufacturing, a little under the average in services. So here's the commercial real quick. What's the difference between a tech industry worker and a tech worker? And this is the hard part when you decide to do this and why none of the numbers look the same when you run these. IBM, where I happened to be an intern back in 1978, and my job was to run down to the end of the aisle and push up a mainframe frame and give it to a tech worker. So they could, the first guy screwed the wheels on, the next guy did, this is way back then. Well, I was a tech worker. There was nothing technical about what I did. I ran down and pushed a frame up, but in IBM, they're a company in the tech sector. I got to be a tech worker. Somebody here works for Belks, I bet, and they're back there doing technology work. They're in the retail sector. And so we understand both of these. We gave both sets of numbers so that you can see both of them. We can map both. But that's sort of the problem in the world, is how do you code these things? The occupational numbers are higher at 254,000 people working in occupations. You can see some of the occupations here, a lot more presented in the report. You can see what the median hourly wage is, so we'll be able to track that as we move forward, and the change in employment. We also looked at strengths and weaknesses for the American South as it's related to technology, and you'll see why in a minute. Huge migration of people, leading research universities, good community colleges. As you heard, reliable energy grids being very important in the cost of energy. Some rises in venture capital, you've heard more about that this week. So there's some real strengths growing the tech sector in our region. And the projections we have, and we're about the middle of this chart now, is the American South, overall in the United States, and we see the same thing. Job numbers are going to go up in this. North Carolina is in the middle there. Goal would be to probably push that above the southern growth. And that's a key for the region to try to work on. We looked at the subsector earnings, and you can see that within those subsectors, we get, one of the things that you get a lot of times is, well, people in New York earn more money than people in North Carolina. Some of you have lived in New York, you understand how. So we did a buy parity and normalized the data, and you can see that North Carolina, the energy sector, 141,000 normalized data, national average 131. Environmental technology above the national average, life sciences above the national average. The core IT, remember most of the jobs are there, a little bit below the national average.